This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, and Silas 1610. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, two men stand face to face, yet have never been further apart. The younger of the pair, Anakin Skywalker, has learnt that his mentor, his friend, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, is the Sith Lord he and the Jedi Order have been looking for, the one who ordered Darth Maul to kill Master Qui-Gon, the one who guided Dooku as he plunged the galaxy into 3 hellish years of bloody war, and all this time, he's sat here pulling the strings and accumulating power just like the Council had said. Drawing his lightsaber, Anakin points the blue blade at the traitor, who even now has the audacity to try and manipulate him, offering to become his master and teach him the ways of the dark side, as if he would ever become a Sith. Seeing this defiance in the young Jedi's eyes, Palpatine asks if Anakin intends to kill him, and while part of him knows that he shouldn't make the same mistake he did with Dooku, that he should turn him over to the Council, Palpatine's own words from the end of his duel with the Count ring in his head. He was too dangerous to be kept alive. If that was true of Dooku, it is twice as true of his master, as with all the power Palpatine has gathered during his tenure in office, he will find a way to avoid punishment, or worse, use his day in court to expose Anakin and Padme's relationship, since as the Chancellor had said, revenge is natural, and how better than to drag the two of them down with him. No, he can't allow that to happen. He can't leave this up to fate or someone else. He needs to act now while he has the chance. Knowing what he must do, Anakin does not hesitate, pulling his lightsaber back, then thrusting it through the Chancellor's torso. However, as the burning blade emerges from his chest, the old man does not show any sign of shock or fear. Instead, he cackles, a horrific, exultant noise that sends a shiver down Anakin's spine, though this is nothing to the horror he feels when Palpatine speaks, as between laughs, the Sith Lord reveals that young Skywalker has just handed him the means to a perfect victory. At once the light leaves the old man's eyes, which have only just taken on their natural yellow now that there is no need for deception. However, this does not mean that he is gone. Far from it, as suddenly a sinister ephemeral wind bursts from Palpatine to bathe Anakin. Having not expected this, there is nothing he can do to resist it. Not that forewarning would have changed anything, as by striking him down in anger, he has completed the final step needed for the essence transference ritual, with the spirit of Palpatine coming to reside inside the Jedi's body. Though it will not be a Jedi's body for much longer, as refusing to risk Skywalker meddling with his plans by attempting to regain control, the Sith Lord destroys him, or rather his spirit, as by calling on the power of the dark side, he is able to expel any trace of Anakin from this vessel before he can react, thus leaving Darth Sidious free to claim what is rightfully his, and begin the long overdue revenge of the Sith. The first step in this plan is a simple one, as he had prepared everything you would need for it in advance, pulling one of his red-blurred lightsabers out from the sleeve of his former body's robe, before striding over to the Chancellor's desk and extracting the officer's security hologram footage of his own confession and seeming execution. With these two essential items in hand, he then proceeds to the Jedi Temple, and more specifically to the Council Chambers, where he requests an emergency meeting of the Jedi Council. Figuring this is a report on Anakin's mission to spy on the Chancellor, the Councilors agree, with their collective shock at what Palpatine shows them almost being enough to make up for the pain of dying. Though this is not the only gratification he receives, as after Windu and a few others make their way over to the Chancellor's office to confirm quote-unquote Anakin's story, they give the person they believe to be Skywalker their most sincere thanks, with a motion being raised to formally recognize him as a Jedi Master. This had been the linchpin of Palpatine's plan, as with this rise in rank he now has access to the restricted section of the Jedi Archives. While Skywalker had wanted this to search for a way to save his wife from death, Palpatine has far grander ambitions, as this section contains all manner of ancient dark side secrets the Jedi had gathered over the centuries, due to them being too dangerous to be left out in the galaxy. But in their supreme arrogance, they had failed to consider that by assembling everything they feared in one place, they had carefully curated the means to destroy them, a means Palpatine intends to fully capitalize on. However, studying these ancient secrets will take time, with this being where Masa Maida comes in, as having ascended to the rank of interim Chancellor in the wake of Palpatine's seeming death, he begins an inquiry into the assassination of his predecessor by a Jedi Knight, which serves as a convenient pretext to not only cast doubt on the Order's loyalty, but also place a moratorium on all Jedi movement both on Coruscant and in the field, keeping them scattered and in the company of their clone troopers while preventing an unwanted deployment from interrupting Palpatine's scheme. Naturally, the councillors led by Windu, due to Yoda still being on Kashyyyk, present the same evidence that was given to them, in the hope that this will clear up matters and allow the Senate to return its focus to declaring the war over now that the Sith Lords and General Grievous have all been dealt with. However, this has the opposite effect, as it proves that a member of the Jedi High Council performed an extrajudicial execution of an elected official, with matters only getting worse when Palpatine under the guise of Anakin is called to testify. Here he uses the man's political naivete and simplistic style of reasoning to present a rationale that sounds noble on the surface, but which a Mater can easily pull apart and use to create the narrative that what Anakin did was a religiously motivated hate crime, since being a Sith does not disqualify one from being Chancellor, yet the young Jedi felt justified in killing their head of state during the height of a civil war when they needed him most, because of a zealous adherence to a dogma that mandates the death of all Sith. This is not a good look for the Jedi, as many begin to question what other illegal and violent acts the so-called Guardians of Peace and Justice might carry out because their code demands it, with this outrage serving as an excellent distraction from Palpatine's own betrayal, which is largely overlooked as the proceedings rapidly morph into a trial for the Jedi Order's right to continue operating throughout the galaxy as they have for thousands of years, or whether they should be removed from all Republic business while facing heavier sanctions and restrictions. Were masters like Obi-Wan, Yoda, or Plo Koon present, this might have been a simple matter to resolve, but with all three barred from returning to Coruscant, it falls to less diplomatically inclined members like Windu to appear before the Senate, with it not taking much prodding to find proof of Mace's dissatisfaction with the Order's involvement in politics and the war, which is easily twisted to look like distrust of the Senate and possibly even democracy itself, an allegation that is very difficult to deny when the Council not only rewarded Skywalker with a promotion for murdering the Chancellor, but still keep him as a member and defend his actions when they should be denouncing them and him. As Palpatine had hoped, this keeps the councillors still stationed on Coruscant occupied and frazzled, as they are not equipped for the pit of gundarks that is the political stage, with this in turn creating a sense of frustration that nicely masks his own growing darkness as he draws near to the end of his research and the next step in his master plan. However, while he is the Jedi fooled, there is one person who can at least partially see through the deception of Darth Sidious, that being Padme, as while she lacks the knowledge of the Force to recognize essence transfer, she can sense on an emotional level that Anakin has changed, becoming colder and more distant. While at first she had put this down to the stress of recent events, now when she looks into his eyes she sees no love for her or their baby, with even the news of its imminent due date only earning a look closer to greed than affection. As unbeknownst to her or anyone else, the Sith Lord is already plotting to make this child his new apprentice, and then in time his next vessel if its potential proves as potent as its father's. However, there is one thing Palpatine had not accounted for, and that is the bond between old friends, as when the person she believes is Anakin shuts her out once again, Padme secretly contacts Obi-Wan to ask for his help. Upon hearing how much his best friend has changed in the weeks since he left for Utapau, the bearded master quickly grows concerned, and so agrees to return to Coruscant at once, even if it means defying the Senate's orders to stand down and await further instruction. As it turns out, this is surprisingly easy, as with pretty much all Utapauan civilization being localized on the one continent, Obi-Wan simply has to tell Commander Cody that he is heading into the wilderness to convene with the Force and does not wish to be disturbed, a claim the clone accepts without suspicion, granting Obi-Wan access to a place with no prying eyes where he can call in a favor from a certain weak-way pirate who is all too happy to smuggle him to Coruscant for a price. Meanwhile, on Kashyyyk, Yoda also receives a request for help, though not from Padme, but instead from Anakin himself. Following the loss of his body, he has been hard at work training under Qui-Gon to return from the netherworld of the Force, and has at last reached a point where he can commune with the living once again. Having been humbled by his failure and the knowledge of how Palpatine used him, Anakin tells Yoda everything, and implores him to put a stop to the Sith Lord's plan no matter the cost. While the Grand Master is disappointed to learn of Anakin's deceit and his dalliances with the dark side, he also understands that they were all misled by the machinations of Darth Sidious, and so agrees to help while beginning to plot his escape from the forest world with Tarful and Chewbacca. Unlike Obi-Wan, it is a bit harder for Yoda and the Wookiees to avoid detection by the clones, though using Using their ancestral knowledge of their home, Chewie and Tarful do guide the Green Jedi to their hidden escape pod, with him thanking them both and promising not to forget the friendship they have shown him, his order, and the Republic as a whole. By luck, or perhaps by the will of the Force, it is around this time that Obi-Wan is passing through the sector, with the human Jedi Master quickly sensing Yoda's presence and having him brought on board. At the news of what Anakin's spirit had told him, Obi-Wan is shaken to his core, though unlike canon where he is unwilling to slay his brother, here he finds resolve, as while the Sith Lord may bear Anakin's face, he knows that he is truly not him, and that it is the real Anakin's wish that this impostor be destroyed, for the safety of the galaxy and his unborn child. Touching down on one of the lower levels of Coruscant where there is less scrutiny, the two Jedi then sneak their way up to the temple, where they seek out Windu, as they know both that they can trust him as a friend, and that they will need his martial prowess for the battle to come. After everything that he and the other Jedi have endured, Mace is eager to see this Sith plot foiled and the truth of what happened revealed to the Republic so the Order can begin rebuilding trust. Though before that can happen, Sidious himself must be stopped, with the three Masters wasting no time as they depart to confront their true enemy at last. Unsurprisingly, they find him in the restricted section of the Temple Archive surrounded by tomes, artifacts, and holocrons, all of which radiate the dark side, though none is half so dark as the leering Sith Lord who wears Anakin's face. As one, the trio ignite their blades of blue, green, and purple, and recognizing that his ruse has been discovered, Darth Sidious cackles while letting loose a volley of Force lightning that Yoda steps forward to deflect. This frees up Obi-Wan and Windu to charge, though having the young and battle-honed body of Skywalker coupled with his own brilliant mind, Palpatine is able to counter this, pulling Anakin's blue saber from his belt and his own second red one from among the artifacts where he had hidden it, with this allowing him to cross blades with both masters at once and push them back. Recognizing that it'll take all three of them together to handle a foe like this, Obi-Wan and Windu retreat to reconvene with Yoda, though the Sith Lord does not allow them any respite, as having reached the same conclusion, he presses the attack, figuring that once he's killed one of them, the battle will be his. Fortunately, there is an easy choice for who his victim should be, since while he is a master, Kenobi is not nearly as skilled with the lightsaber as Windu, nor as gifted in the Force as Yoda, so it should be simple to strike him down as the weakest link. To this end, his focus turns to separating Kenobi from his allies, which he does by force pulling a shelf down on top of Yoda, before using one of Skywalker's spry muscular legs to plant a surprise kick on Mace's face that staggers the bald man. Remembering this is one of Maul's favourite techniques, Obi-Wan switches stance to Ataru, as that was what he used to defeat the Zabrak years ago, though as he will learn, what was good enough to beat the apprentice is not enough to defeat the master, as Sidious quickly overpowers him, and even utilizes Anakin's superior physical strength once again to knock him onto his back. Then, with victory in his sights, the Dark Lord raises the blue blade over his head and swings it down for the killing blow, only for it to come to a sudden stop in midair, like something is holding it back. At once, all four combatants feel a familiar presence, and as their eyes turn upwards, they witness the glowing blue form of Anakin stride into view, having transcended even what Qui-Gon had achieved, and found a way to manifest himself in the living world once again. This sight terrifies Sidious, whose actions have all been motivated by his fear of death, while in contrast, the Jedi feel new life enter them, like the spectre of Anakin is dissipating the darkness hanging over them all, and allowing them to reach deeper into the light side of the Force. Refusing to let this second wind go to waste, Yoda, Mace, and Obi-Wan all channel this into their bodies and resume their attack, while at their side, the ghost of Anakin uses his immense connection to the Force, which has only grown since his ascension, to counter any dark side tricks Palpatine attempts to throw at his friends. Against four of the greatest Jedi of the era, Darth Sidious stands no chance, with it not being long before he is disarmed and brought to his knees while three lightsabers point at his throat. However, here Anakin speaks up, stating they cannot kill him, as that would run the risk of him using essence transfer on one of them. Tersely, Windu demands to know what he suggests then, since with co-conspirators like a meta in the Senate and the courts, it will be impossible for him to be held accountable for what he's done. In a tone of calm and wisdom that he never had in life, Anakin agrees, which is why he will be the one to deal with Palpatine. Meeting his former student's eyes with a look of sorrow, Obi-Wan asks if he means, though not needing to hear the end to understand his best friend, Anakin nods and states that it's the only way. Sighing deeply, Obi-Wan accepts this, while having reached the same conclusion, Yoda's ears droop as he thanks young Skywalker, who in turn thanks each of them and implores them to give his love to Padme and his unborn child. Then, without another word, he reaches out and begins pulling Palpatine's spirit back into the netherworld of the Force with him. Naturally, the Sith Lord resists, letting out a ferocious scream of defiance, though in the end, this is worth very little, as the body of Anakin Skywalker falls dead upon the archive floor, now that both its inhabitants are gone forever. With the defeat of Darth Sidious and the revelation of his plot, the Jedi can at last begin to clear their name. While it is difficult work, especially with several of Palpatine's loyalists remaining entrenched in positions of power, and the public being slow to give back the trust that was lost, there is at least the possibility of a future in which the Order can be regarded as it once was. However, before they can move on, they must first pay tribute to what has passed, with this being emblematized through Anakin's funeral. At Padme's request, he is laid to rest in the Lake Country back on Naboo, with she, Obi-Wan, and her twin children, both of whom were born without complication, standing vigil over his pyre. Though it does little to lessen her grief, she is comforted by the knowledge that her husband's sacrifice was not in vain, as in his final act, he truly proved himself the chosen one, destroying the Sith and bringing balance to the Force. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.